In this lesson, in this lecture, I want to talk about security with sessions and how do we actually handle security with sessions. To start with, I'm going to talk about how PHP sessions work and how can we actually start a session using PHP. Imagine we have our browser and our server on the right-hand side. And this communication between browser and server are stateless. What it means is when you actually send a request, browser doesn't have any interest to know who you are, and it's just gonna send you a response. And this is stateless, as I said earlier. But when you actually use cookies, when you send the request to the server, and when you actually receive the response and request can be handled by cookies. And cookies, when you send the cookie, when you actually request the server to store the cookies, when you respond, then cookies gonna comes with the response and sits in your browser. And next time when you want to request again, you send the cookies along with your request, and server knows who you are. So in the cookie, you might actually store token, expiry date, name, anything you want, and the size can be actually 4 kilobytes and nothing actually more. And that actually sends some text and whatever you want to store in the text. You can't store a movie or audio or massive binary files. All you can actually store is going to be text, and these text needs to be encrypted, and it's very important to encrypt these cookies, because if you don't encrypt it, somebody's going to hijack it or change it, or they can do anything they want. But let's talk about sessions. When you send a request to the server and a response to the server, cookies are sitting inside the browser of the user. And what happens with the sessions is you don't store anything in the user's browser. All you store, everything is going to be a session in the browser, in the web server, not in the user's browser. And whenever you're going to request again this session ID, which is going to be in your browser, which is going to refer to the web server's sessions ID. It's going to refer to the web server sessions ID, and then you can retrieve all of those data which is stored in the session, and the server knows who you're going to be. So sessions are, in my opinion, way more secure than cookies, even though nothing wrong with using cookies. But data is stored on a web server. That's the difference between cookies and sessions. Data is stored on the web server, and you need a garbage collections. Otherwise, the data stored in a web server can be massive. Depends on the users, how many users you have, and then you have to clean it up. If you don't clean it up, no one's going to be able to clean it for you. So how we can work with the session ID? If you want to work with the session ID now, session ID can be stored two ways. First of all, you can store it as a cookie, or either you can passing through the URL. But I mean, everybody uses session ID and it stores in a cookie because, like I say here, do not embed the session ID in a query string. Either it can be a URL or anything else, because that's going to reveal the session and everything's going to be exposed, and you can actually change it, or someone can actually hijack it and use it and to use the membership or anything you do with the session. I'm not talking about a bank system. Bank systems use so much way more powerful than the sessions, but this can be dangerous if you, for example, if you sit in the coffee shop and use the same Wi-Fi, somebody will be able to hijack your session. So this happens when you stored as a cookie. But I'm saying this because I don't want you to embed the session ID in a query string. And for the security purposes, I'm not going to even talk about this anymore. but the only thing we're going to talk about is going to be storing this as a cookie. And always use cookies to store the session ID, like I told you, and how to use sessions. To store to use the sessions, first thing you're going to do, you're going to issue this command, session_start. And this have to be done on top of the page, or at least wherever you're going to intend to use a super global session variable. So we have many super global variables in PHP. One of them is _session or $_session, and you can name it anything you want. In this case, I named it login, and I actually assign it to true. So for example, if you want to check somebody is logged in already, you have to assign it to true and then store it to the session. This doesn't mean that you're storing the session true in the session ID. The session ID is going to be unique, and whatever you stored in the web server, that's going to be also unique. It's not going to be word true or either login. And then the other session I made an example here is going to be name. The name is referring to post name. So you, for example, you posting a form and you're retrieving the name from the text field and you sanitize it with HTML entities. So what HTML entities does is going to sanitize the name, because you never want to use, you never want to trust the user's input. And also, if you don't do sanitization here, every time you want to use the name, either retrieve from your database or everything else, anywhere else you store the session or name, you have to sanitize it there. So it's a good practice to sanitize it right here, and you don't need to sanitize it somewhere else. I'm going to talk about sessions lifetime. Normally, sessions are will be destroyed or actually expire when the browser is closed. I think expiration is a much better word comparing to destroy. So when the browser is closed, the session is going to be expired. But this doesn't mean that session is going to be automatically deleted when you close your browser. It's going to be there until you go ahead and delete it. Or it's a good practice to delete the sessions data whenever it is no longer needed. So you're going to use garbage collection, and there is no guarantee that user will log out. I had to type user. There you go, much better. And as I said, is not always possible, so there's no guarantee that user will log out. But this has happened when you destroy the session. So you have to log it out and then destroy the session if you want to use the destroy session. Also, PHP garbage collection runs once in a while, so it's going to be run periodically to collect the garbage from the web server. So how to make the sessions persistent or stable? To do that, we need to make sure cookies remains active after browser is closed. So this is the first step you need to do, because when you close the browser, as I said earlier, sessions will be destroyed. Second thing, make sure the data is no longer garbage collected. So the data needs to be there and not to be garbage collected. And the third and last one, you need to make sure we store the data as secure as possible. So security should be the first one, but when you keep the cookies after browser is closed, security is no longer needed. So that's my third one. This is based on my opinion. Whichever is I think the priority is higher, I'll put it on the top. So security is going to be the third one. So let's go to the next lesson to do these 3 steps.